Broadcasting live from the New Creations Weight Loss Studio in Little Rock, it's Crime Chronicle Live with your host, Val Emmons.
Well, hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are live here from the New Creations Weight Loss Center studio, and we have a lot to talk about today. As you know, or if you don't know, we will inform you. Thursday evening, there was a shooting at Plaza Mall, and we're going to start off with that because I don't know about y'all, but that's pretty much all that I've heard since it happened, and it was a very senseless crime, and we want to talk about it today. So if you feel that you need to vent or just make a statement about what happened, go ahead and give us a call at 433-0092, and we'll take your calls, and we want to discuss it because it's becoming an epidemic in the city again. I mean, I don't know if any, and I'm sure all of y'all are old enough to remember the Banging in Little Rock video, but I think that, or the documentary, I think that this incident was, before we have all these robberies, and yeah, people are getting robbed, but this time someone actually got killed in a place that we pretty much frequently go. And my children go there every weekend, and it was really hit home because I'm not letting them go there anymore. Well, I have Daniel Schroeder here with me today too. So we were scheduled to have Arlo Washington on, but we will have to have him on another day because he had to reschedule that. So I apologize for putting that out there and not coming through. But Daniel's here with us, and he wants to talk about this topic as well.
Yeah, this is it's pretty shocking. We've done some pretty interesting digging. If you go to our Facebook page, which is
www.facebook/Crime Chronicle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've actually found some pretty interesting things just digging around on the internet about some of the people that LRPD have arrested for this, specifically Deontay Edison. I'm not sure yet at this time if he's one of the two who's actually was previously an employee at the Sbarro where this occurred.
That's what I've heard, but of course I don't have that.
We found some pretty interesting things. Deontay is an 18-year-old young man. On his Instagram account, we actually found a picture of a firearm that he took, a handgun. I can't really tell what make this is, but apparently he bought it within the last week.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's
so
like,
I don't know if this was the handgun that was used in that commission of that crime or not, but it's pretty interesting. So yeah.
I mean, I was reading the thread, and when I started reading it, I was just blown away. I mean, some of the things, I mean, even his name, and I'm not sure if I'd feel appropriately saying it over the air, but
yeah, I don't know if we need to say what his name is. Y'all just have to get on
very
and see that. But
offensive name, I think, and
his Instagram handle is
very offensive. And then, I mean, like some of the things on here, somebody's asking him for the gun. They're like, I want to buy it from you. And he's like, well, no, I just got it, but I'll get you one. Really?
Apparently he's got a source on him. I didn't know where 18-year-old kids are able to buy handguns illegally. They probably need to look into this.
I just think that it's telling of what's going on in our society right now. And if we don't get a control of this and preempt it, it's going to get out of control even more than it already is. And my heart goes out to the mother of Christian Hayes. I feel so bad for the family, and not even that, but Deontay and Tristan's family as well, because they're victims in this too, because they're losing their children.
Yeah, and Jashonta Thomas, who was also shot, she's still in critical condition, as far as I understand. And I know the folks over at St. Vincent's have probably taken very good care of her. Thankful that she was very close to a hospital when this occurred.
Yeah, I mean, how you couldn't have been even more luckier than that, just to be across the street, pretty much. I just think that, and then let's see,
let's just take it from the top of what actually happened from what we know. Apparently, around closing time at the mall, Tristan Bryant and Deontay Edison came in, and they came through a back hallway, the service entrance, and came to Sbarro's Pizza at Plaza Mall as they were closing, and ostensibly to rob the place, and ended up shooting and killing one of the employees and shooting and seriously injuring another. And thankfully, through the good work of Little Rock Police Department, they were able to locate them pretty quickly and arrest them. at a house over on 25th and Bishop downtown. And but as the more we look into this, the more chilling this gets. This is just a shocking crime.
It's shocking to see his Facebook page, and people knew. I mean, people, and if you go, and I'm not sure if anyone saw this, but if you go out and you put a Twitter in for Deontay Edison, it pulls up all the people that know him and all the people that are saying and talking about this, and some of his friends, and they're all like, they're not even like, they don't seem remorseful for the girl and the guy that got killed. I mean, I just can't believe the societal just coldness.
Yeah, it's almost like that it's part of some.
No, well, we're gonna have Daniel switch mics for a minute, so I'm gonna also go over something real quick, and we want to do a rundown of all the things that have happened this week. We want to talk more about that, about the Park Plaza shooting, but we also want to talk about, there's some other things. This has been a very busy week, people, and if you don't know about some of the stuff, you need to know about it, because it's very frightening to go out and not know what's going on in the areas that are happening. And so this week, Red Lobster on Rodney Parham was robbed.
Rodney Parham and Markham, yeah, that was a shocking. Another thing, like something ripped out of a movie.
Yeah.
First thing, I got a call from a friend of ours letting me know that he was driving past there and saw police cars just swarming the place near closing time again. They had police tape around the entire building, and then come to find out what had happened, they actually had four individuals, only one of whom we know at this time was armed. Basically, they shuffled all the staff and the patrons at the Red Lobster in the main dining room, made them lay down on the ground, which is, if that happened to me, I'd be assuming this is some sort of hostage situation. They were really a pretty bold and brazen crime.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? But the thing that really, when I read the police report, it was very telling of, they didn't ask for money. It didn't seem that they asked for money from any of the customers. It was like they knew where they were going.
Yeah.
They knew that they wanted to hit the restaurant money, and they took a couple of employees' business money, but they didn't ask the customers to empty their pockets or anything of that nature.
Yeah, which is good. The situation of just ended up robbing everybody there.
But luckily no one got hurt in that situation.
Yeah, that's very fortunate.
And then, let's see, there was the shooting at McDonald's.
Well,
not
if
at
it
McDonald's.
actually happened at McDonald's,
right,
the police report's pretty unclear about that. If y'all are interested in that, we can post that on our Facebook page. I'll need to do that. But the police report is very confusing. Apparently, the man who was shot claims that he had been dropped off by his girlfriend at the Breckenridge movie theater there at Rodney Parham and Breckenridge, right off of Interstate 430, and that he was then decided to walk over to McDonald's and got shot between the movie theater and McDonald's.
Right.
Well,
and he said he didn't know who did it.
He doesn't know who did it. He didn't see any vehicles. He didn't know where the shots had come from. An employee inside the restaurant claims that they had seen a green SUV drop him off.
Yeah.
And the police actually circulated the area and found a green SUV in an apartment complex nearby, and that guy admitted that he had been there at the time. But then he claimed that there was another vehicle that he had seen drop the man who was shot. So it's really kind of confusing about that one. It was actually that the crime maybe even occurred at that location.
And I'm sure the police are doing their due diligence to find out. Like, I'm sure they're asked the girlfriend. I'm sure they've found out who the green SUV was. But they could have told them, no, it wasn't me. But, it could have possibly been them. I mean, he could have gotten shot over in Southwest Little Rock, or West Little Rock. He got shot anywhere, and somebody just dropped him off there. I mean, just because they didn't want to be responsible and take him to the hospital and get in trouble.
Yeah,
that happens a lot.
That seems like a pretty plausible explanation, considering how confusing the police report was, and I'm sure the police have figured all this stuff out as well. Or it could be completely off base. It certainly was just a very confusing police report, though, based on what the different conflicting stories that the officers got.
And we wanted to share this stuff with you because here in about 5 or 6 minutes, we're going to be joined by Dr. John Lott, author of the book More Guns, Less Crime. And we're going to talk to him about, it's sort of a teaser to next week's forum at the Clinton School with Dr. Lott. And you don't want to miss that. So if you still want to call in, the phones are still open. You'll be able to call in. The number is 433-0092. So you can give us a call with your thoughts on any of this. You know, we need to come together as a community, in my opinion, to try to find some solutions to why these. I mean, 18 years old. He's just a baby. I mean, how do you take somebody's life and be 18 years old? I mean, I just don't get that. And I've also stressed to my son, who is a cashier, because he's a teenager. You know, I've stressed to him, do not try to be a hero. Just give them the money, because he was like, oh, I'm like, no. You just give them the money and don't try to be a hero. If someone's life's in danger, I can understand you trying to be a hero, but if they're just wanting the money, they'll
give them the money.
That's right, give them the money.
Yeah.
So we're going to. Well, I need to tell you first about Central Arkansas's newest gun store and indoor range, Arkansas Armory. The emphasis at Arkansas Armory is personal protection, concealed carry, and tactical home defense. They have a 25-yard indoor range with excellent ventilation. If you're looking to take a concealed carry license course, or if you just want a convenient place to shoot, give Nathan House and the Arkansas Armory staff a call at 501-835-4867 or stop by at 7600 Landers Road in Sherwood. That's 501-835-GUNS. And then I also want to tell you about New Creations Weight Loss, because I am excited about this. I've been on this diet, this HCG diet, and I know you've heard Dave talk about it a little bit, but I am a client too, and since I started the diet last Saturday, I've lost 7 pounds, and I am ecstatic.
7 pounds.
7 pounds.
In 1 week.
I know, I'm so excited, because when I'm done, it's going to be like 21 pounds, and I'm just excited. And so if you want to know more about the HCG diet, you can go ahead and give New Creations Weight Loss Clinic a call at 501-791-6795 to set up your appointment with Dr. Schroeder. And they will take good care of you over there. They have been amazing. So it looks like we have a call. Let me go ahead and... We have a caller?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Who is this? Who am I speaking with?
Fantastic. This is John in Hot Springs.
Hey, John.
Hi, John.
Well, listen, you guys are coming in clear now. I can hear Daniel, but this whole thing in Park Plaza Mall, this just goes to show you that I'm not sure, but I think Park Plaza Mall is a quote-unquote gun-free zone.
Yes, that's
and
true.
Amazing that a gun-free zone somebody got shot in. How is that possible?
They probably didn't get the memo, I don't think. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up, because I went by there yesterday and took some pictures actually of their policy, which is posted by their entrance, and it's buried deep down in there. It's instruction number 20 or code of conduct rule number 20 actually states that carrying or displaying weapons of any kind except those carried by certified law enforcement officers in the performance of their duties. That's one of the 24 prohibited things that you're on their list, their code of conduct. Apparently, even off-duty police officers aren't allowed to carry into the mall there. But it didn't seem to bother the criminals that went in there with their bad intentions.
Well, it never does bother the criminals, and all I would say to the listeners is be aware of your situation and be prepared to protect yourself. You'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And I'll hang up and let you guys talk.
I appreciate
Thank you,
the call,
John.
John. Thank you very much.
Well, we have another John on the line with us right now, and I'm going to go right now to John Lott. Hi, Dr. Lott. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Thanks for inviting me on.
Well, thanks for agreeing to come on. We're excited to have you next week, too.
Oh, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we're all looking forward to getting some information from the master. I have Daniel Schroeder here with me as well, and we just wanted to. Well, I really want to get your take on. I told you that we had a mall shooting on Thursday, and I know that you speak out about if you had no policy, then maybe this might not have happened. Yeah.
I know you've researched that extensively about the effects of gun-free zones. Would you mind talking a little bit about that, Dr. Lott?
Right. Well, if you look at all the multiple victim public shootings in the United States since at least 1950, where more than 3 people have been killed, with just 2 exceptions, they all have taken place where guns are banned. You look at something like the Aurora, Colorado movie theater shooting last summer, July 20th, for the Batman movie premiere. You had 7 movies theaters showing the premiere of the Batman movie within a 20-minute drive of the killer's apartment. Only one of those posted signs banning permanently concealed handguns. The killer didn't go to the movie theater that was closest to his home. There was one that was only 1.2 miles away. He didn't go to the movie theater that, if you called up their hotline, would brag that they had the largest auditoriums in the state of Colorado. You would think if somebody wanted to go and kill lots of people, one place to go would be to the largest auditorium on premiere night. Instead, he went to the single movie theater that posted a sign banning permanently concealed handguns, where he knew that his victims weren't going to be able to defend themselves. And what's happened time after time, whether it be the mall shootings like in Omaha, Nebraska, or Salt Lake City, Utah, or other cases, they'll have many venues that they can choose from that will be very similar, but they pick the place which bans permanently concealed handguns. And in most of the right to carry states, you have very few places which are off limits for people being able to carry concealed handguns, and yet those are the places where these killers go. And it's hard to believe that it's just by accident. If it was random, then 99% of the attacks would be taking place where guns are allowed, and said the opposite's true. And there are cases where it's pretty clear that the concealed handgun bans in certain areas do affect them. You can go back to something like the Columbine shooting. In that case, Dylan Klebold, one of the killers there, was definitely, even according to the New York Times, strongly opposed to the concealed carry law that was then being considered before the state legislature. Apparently, he even wrote his legislators opposing the concealed handgun law. He was apparently quite upset about the fact that it would have allowed concealed carry on school property. And one thing that most people don't seem to realize is that the attack for him happened to occur the very day that the state legislature was scheduled for final passage of their concealed carry law. So, anyway, it's just not here in the United States. It's true worldwide. You look at Europe, all the multiple victim public shootings in Europe have all occurred where guns are banned. Even in Switzerland, where it's very easy to carry concealed handguns. It's only been since 2000 that they've had a few places that are gun-free zones, and yet those are the places, even in Switzerland, where they've had a few big multiple victim public shootings. They occur even there where guns are banned.
Dr. Lott, if I've heard this correctly, of some of my reading, I've come across, apparently Israel is another place where people are allowed, citizens are allowed to carry concealed weapons, and that's why Hamas and some other terrorist organizations actually tend to attack using suicide bombs, because they found that mass shootings are not very effective when armed citizens can stop them very quickly. Have you done any research or read anything?
I know. I mean, I've written on that. Look, if you go back, I mean, Israel's obviously had terrorist attacks from even before the country was formed. And if you go back and look at the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the very early 70s, virtually all the terrorist attacks involved machine guns. Starting in the around after 72, they're almost all involving bombs. And what changed at that time was letting Israelis carry concealed handguns. You've had as high as 15% of the adult Jewish population in Israel being able to carry concealed handguns. And as you say, if you allow people to carry and the terrorists pull out their guns, people can respond. If they set off a bomb, there's not too much for them to respond to at that point, though there are a few cases where people with handguns have stopped terrorists before they could set off their bombs. But look, what Israel learned, the reason why they made the change in policy was they learned that no matter how much money they spent, terrorists had certain strategic advantages that no matter how many police or how many military they put on the street, the terrorists could still do their attacks. So, for example, if you have a terrorist on a bus and you have a couple police officers, at least two choices. One choice is they can simply be patient. They can wait until the police leave and then do their attack, or they can kill the police first and then kill the other people. But when you allow people to carry concealed handguns, the terrorists don't know who they're supposed to go and attack first. And one story that I have in one of my books is a newspaper account of what happened after a terrorist attack shortly after they changed the rules in Israel. You had they had attacked in a suburb of Tel Aviv on a school day, early afternoon, and 4 terrorists attacked, pulled out their machine guns, started firing, and the civilians in the mall pulled out their handguns, fired back, killed 3 of the terrorists. The 4th terrorist was severely wounded, and the reason why I included it is when he was being taken to the hospital in an ambulance, the attendant in the ambulance reported how very upset the terrorist was. He was inconsolably upset because what had happened was nobody had told him that the old ladies during a weekday afternoon there would have handguns with them.
I find that very interesting because I too say that around right now they've proposed legislation in our state in regards to open carry, and so there's big arguments about that, and some people will say, well, I'll just stop going to the business. I think I would go to those businesses because I would feel safer with everyone carrying, to be honest.
Yeah, Dr. Lott.
Right, you said open carry?
Yes.
Well,
that's a big
I mean,
push.
I don't know. I mean, I've addressed that several times. My new book, At the Brink, talks about this a little bit, but I mean, I think to me, there's a lot bigger benefit from concealed carry with regard to crime than there is with regard to open carry. I mean, it's just basically the discussion we were just having with the police in Israel. I mean, somebody in uniform, that's the person you avoid, and instead, it's the person that they don't know is there, who's carrying concealed, that's the one who keeps them from doing it. So, I mean, I suppose if some people are concealed and some are open, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, we have both options on that.
No, I understand you do, but I'm just saying I don't really think there's much. Look, there may be other reasons why you want to carry openly. I suppose people do it in order to educate other people or something like that. But I'm not really sure you have to do that too much. Maybe in part you're talking about because people feel uncomfortable with others carrying. But while I guess one could say normally you may improve the safety of the individual who's carrying openly, but that's not even always the case. But you greatly reduce the benefit that you get from concealed carry or from carrying if it's open, in the sense that you don't protect others around you, and you don't increase the risk in the criminal's mind about whether to go and attack or not. Right. And so, I mean, I understand the desire for open carry. I think if it were me and you were trying to fight for different types of legislation to get through, I think there are other things that would fight for first rather than worrying about open carry. I know Arkansas has been considering a bill to get rid of gun-free zones in churches, and there are other types of gun-free zones that are there.
They actually just passed that legislation in Arkansas this session.
Right. Well, I mean, that's good. I mean, and at the Brink, I'm trying to talk about what can be done with regard to these gun-free zones and the risks that they pose. And I think, you have universities. I don't think Arkansas has the same type of law that you'll see in Wisconsin or Mississippi or Colorado or Utah, where people are allowed to carry on university property. I would like to see something like that changed. And, so those are the types of things I would spend my political capital on, trying to get rid of currently mandated gun-free zones more than worrying about open carry.
Well, Dr. Lott, we have to take a break. Can you stay with us?
Sure.
Okay. We'll be right back.
Do you have unfiled tax returns or owe the IRS or state more than $10,000? If you don't take action now, your tax problem is only going to get worse. Seizure of property, bank levies, wage garnishments, and potential criminal prosecution. Call the experts at U.S. Tax Shield for help at 1-800-334-5070. Our tax advisors will review your case for free, inform you of your rights, and give you a guaranteed quote. And we have an A-plus rating with the BBB, so get protected. Call U.S. Tax Shield now at 1-800-334-5070.
Crime Chronicle and KARN News Radio presents a special forum, More Guns, Less Crime, with economist, best-selling author, and as President Obama likes to call him, the gun guy, John Lott. John Lott is best known as the man who changed the debate on gun control in America. So join Crime Chronicle and KARN in welcoming John Lott to the Clinton School of Public Service on March 9th at 12 noon to hear how more guns equal less crime. For more information and to RSVP, please go to facebook.com/Crime Chronicle.
Introducing a faster way to push to talk. AT&T Enhanced Push to Talk. AT&T delivers more of what your business needs. Instant communication, up to 1,000 contacts, plus a broad array of devices and platforms. Visit your local AT&T store or call 1-877-981-3359 to get your business started today. You push to talk, we pushed it further. AT&T, rethink possible.
New activations only requires 2-year commitment to eligible voice and data plans plus activation of AT&T Enhanced Push to Talk service.
Local restaurants, shops, salons, and more with savings of 50 to 90% every time. Live more, spend less. Download the mobile app now.
Now that's a real sweet deal.
Sweetjack.com.
Crime Chronicle and KARN News Radio presents a special forum, More Guns, Less Crime, with economist, best-selling author, and as President Obama likes to call him, the gun guy, John Lott. John Lott is best known as the man who changed the debate on gun control in America. So join Crime Chronicle and KARN in welcoming John Lott to the Clinton School of Public Service on March 9th at 12 noon to hear how more guns equal less crime. For more information and to RSVP, please go to facebook.com/Crime Chronicle.
Pick up your copy of the Crime Chronicle today because you have a right to know.
All right, we're back, and we have Dr. John Lott on the phone right now. And thank you for being with us again, Dr. Lott. I want to ask you, though, I want to kind of change the subject, not subject a little bit, but I want to change the tune. I am interested in your encounter with President Obama when you were both professors.
Right. Well, yeah, he was a part-time lecturer.
Yes.
I basically, my new book...
I love that. I'm sorry. Part-time lecturer. That's great.
Yeah, my new book, At the Brink, goes through and kind of goes through the different conversations. I mean, we overlapped for about 4 years at the school there. The first time I went up and introduced myself to him, he said, "Oh, you're the gun guy." And I said, "I guess so." And he turned to me and said, "I don't believe people should be able to own guns." And I had heard that he had been helping out with the city of Chicago suit against the gun makers, and that I guess he was on the Joyce Foundation board, which people don't know. Joyce Foundation has been the biggest funder of kind of anti-gun groups in the country for decades. And I said, well, maybe we can get together for lunch sometime and talk about it. And he just kind of wrinkled his face and turned his back on me and walked away. And that was the end of our first conversation. I probably had about 20 or so interactions with him over time, and they were all pretty similar. I mean, he wouldn't shake my hand. He wouldn't. Our conversations were usually very short. I have some of them that I go through in the book. I mean, the main reason why he stands out in my mind is because he was so different from other academics. I mean, I'm a conservative, which makes one fairly unique and academic. And I disagreed with lots of people in academia, and they disagreed with me. And but often our disagreements would result in some type of discussion on things.
Which is what you grow from and you learn from.
Right, I agree. Well, it's part of the process. It's presumably the reason why you're around a university is you find that type of discussion fun. And but Barack wasn't that way. I got the feeling that in those discussions that he disliked me. I mean, the very fact that he wouldn't shake hands and stuff, or was constantly turning his back on me when we have some discussion. It's not that he just disliked me. I think he viewed me as actually evil with regard to that. And, he had very strong views on the gun issue. And one of the reasons why I wrote At the Brink was just, I think one of the places he's going to leave his mark on America is not just the changes that he's made to health care and to the damage that he's done to the economy, but also I think he's going to have long-term effect on people's ability to go and defend themselves. And he's doing that not just federally, but something that I've never seen happen before, and I talk to people and nobody else has been able to point to that, and that is he's actually lobbying state legislators and getting them to switch their votes to get gun control passed in different states. And Colorado is one example of that, where just a couple weeks ago when I was there at the request of state legislators there, Vice President Biden was calling up Democrats there and getting 7 of them to switch their votes. They were originally going to vote against the gun control laws, and because of those switches in votes, he was able to get 4 different gun control bills passed. Basically, my understanding was he was promising campaign assistance if they voted the right way next year, and if they didn't vote the right way, there was implied threats of going and getting some primary opponent to run against them. So
sell your soul and your rights for campaign cash, like it.
Well, I mean, to stay in office.
Right.
This is the type of hardball tactics that you might expect for somebody in Congress facing, but not somebody, a state House member in Colorado. I mean, who would have thought that a president would be getting involved in an individual state trying to pass gun control? But I think what that shows is just how intensely Obama feels about this issue, and the fact that he doesn't face re-election again frees him up to go and kind of show how he really feels about this.
And I knew that would happen.
I kind of suspected the same thing too, and but he's going to have a major impact in other ways. I mean, the people, I try to go through this also in At the Brink, but he, he's having a big impact on the courts, on who he's appointing. The 2 people he's appointed to the Supreme Court, Sotomayor and Kagan, both believe that there is not an individual right to self-defense, let alone individual right to self-defense with a gun. And the 2 major decisions that we've had striking down the gun bans in Washington, D.C. and Chicago were by very close votes. There were 5-4 votes. And if one of the 5 who said that a complete gun ban goes too far, then retires or dies, and a couple of them are in their late 70s, then you're going to see a massive switch in terms of gun regulations in this country. And so he could have not just a big effect through his lower court appointments and who he's already put on the Supreme Court, but he could radically change the constitutional interpretations with regard to gun rights.
Speaking of people who are appointees of the president, in your book, in the chapter about guns, about our Attorney General Eric Holder and the Fast and Furious program, that's just a mind-boggling exercise the federal government engaged in, actually, to this gun-walking idea of supposedly they were going to trace guns through crime syndicates in Mexico, and ended up they didn't even attempt to do that. They just basically handed over guns and ended up costing the life of a U.S. Border Patrol agent.
Right, yeah, well, right. And At the Brink, I mean, the amazing thing here is what possible reason could they do for how they ran this program? As you say, the justification was supposedly to trace the guns, but they didn't try to trace the guns. It was more than just let the guns go. They ordered gun dealers to make the sales, because some of the gun dealers were calling them up and saying, look, we don't feel comfortable selling guns to these guys. We don't want to do it. And the Obama administration said, we want you to sell them to them. And these gun dealers were saying, look, you got to give us a letter. You got to give us something here telling us that this is what you want us to do, because otherwise we're not going to do it.
Wow.
And so the Obama administration ordered these gun dealers to make these sales that they weren't comfortable with themselves. And then they don't trace the guns. And there's testimony that I go through in the book that of agents who were saying, look, we told, or even management people who told higher level people, look, these guns aren't being traced. We don't see the point of us just giving the guns to these gun dealer thugs to go and take if we're not even going to trace them. And you had stories about agents who tried on their own because they were so frustrated that the higher levels up in the Justice Department weren't listening to them, that they tried to make their own tracking devices to put on, but an agent or whatever on their own, they weren't able to go and make a tracking device that lasted long enough to be of much use. But they were receiving no help higher up. And, one can say often the Obama administration says, well, the Bush administration tried to do the same thing. Bush administration didn't try to do the same thing. Bush administration had a program where they let some Mexican drug dealers take guns, but they tried to trace them, and they involved the Mexican government in trying to trace them. Now, you can say they failed, but they at least tried, and when they realized they failed, they stopped the program. In Obama's case, they didn't even try, and so it's kind of like saying, well, the Bush administration tried, they weren't able to effectively trace them, and so we're going to keep doing the program, but we're going to not even try to trace them. And so, and they've never really come clean on what their thought process was for why they would set up a program like this without even trying to trace the guns.
But they want you to trace. They want us to trace. Have to be traced ours. That's
right. Well, I mean, the irony here is the whole program started in 2009 when the Obama administration was making what's basically a complete lie. They were claiming that 90% of the crime guns in Mexico had originated in the United States. And what the true number is something like 15% or so, because Mexico didn't have all the guns traced. They just traced the 17% of the guns that they thought were from the United States. And so it was 90% of the 70% were from the United States. But that saying that 15% is a lot different than 90%. And it's just, and so it's kind of at the same time that they were trying to go and say, look, we need to have more gun regulation in the United States because it's affecting Mexico. And, and half of these guns were, half of this 15% or so were really old guns. They were made before 1967. And because it's really easy to tell which guns are from the United States, because the United States is the one country in the world that numbers on their guns. And so the Mexican authorities just say, well, if there's a serial number on the gun, it's from the United States, and we know it's been made since 1967. Now, there's some guns made in the United States even before that time that had serial numbers, but there was pretty much most of them were. You'd have to go even a little bit earlier, probably prior to 60 or so, to get many guns that didn't have serial numbers put on them. But so wasn't a real rocket science effort on their part. But the thing is, it's amazing how many of the guns were incredibly old. And even the ones built since 67, a lot of them were still decades old that were down there. So it's not like there is a lot of guns going down from the United States right now down to Mexico. And these things like machine guns and other things, you don't go into a gun store and just buy a machine gun and or rocket launcher or whatever they were having down there. These guys were, these drug dealers have huge amounts of money, are able to go and not only bring in drugs from other countries, but they're able to go and bring in military-grade weapons. I mean, true military weapons, not the type of military-style weapon that gets the Obama administration so upset about things. Just things that look like military weapons but are actually their inside guts exactly the same as any type of hunting rifle.
Well, Dr. Lott, we've got to go to another break, but if you'll hold on for just a few minutes, or do you have a few more minutes you can talk?
Sure, no, I'm happy to do this.
Great, thanks. We'll be back.
I appreciate you reading the At the Brink book. Thanks for doing that.
It's great. Thank you. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Crime Chronicle and KARN News Radio presents a special forum, More Guns, Less Crime, with economist, best-selling author, and as President Obama likes to call him, the gun guy, John Lott. John Lott is best known as the man who changed the debate on gun control in America. So join Crime Chronicle and KARN in welcoming John Lott to the Clinton School of Public Service on March 9th at 12 noon to hear how more guns equal less crime. For more information and to RSVP, please go to facebook.com/Crime Chronicle.
The excitement's at an all-time high at Isle of Capri Lula this March. Get ready for the $30,000 Mountains of Winning giveaway. You could win a share of $30,000 in cash or fan play every Friday and Saturday in March. And it's so easy to enter. Get one free entry daily and additional entries with every 150 points earned on your fan club card February 25th through March 30th. Then every Friday and Saturday, we'll draw 3 winners at 9 p.m. and 3 more winners at 11 p.m. You could instantly win $500 in fan play or $500 in cash. Don't miss the $30,000 Mountains of Winning giveaway March 1st through 30th. You could win a share of $30,000 in cash or fan play. Only at Isle of Capri Lula. Must be 21. Event is subject to change or cancellation without notice. Gambling problem? Call 1-888-777-9696.
Introducing a faster way to push-to-talk. AT&T Enhanced Push-to-Talk. AT&T delivers more of what your business needs. Instant communication, up to 1,000 contacts, plus a broad array of devices and platforms. Visit your local AT&T store or call 1-877-981-3359 to get your business started today. You push-to-talk, we pushed it further. AT&T, rethink possible.
New activations only requires 2-year commitment to eligible voice and data plans plus activation of AT&T Enhanced Push-to-Talk service.
Crime Chronicle and KARN News Radio presents a special forum, More Guns, Less Crime, with economist, best-selling author, and as President Obama likes to call him, the gun guy, John Lott. John Lott is best known as the man who changed the debate on gun control in America. So join Crime Chronicle and KARN in welcoming John Lott to the Clinton School of Public Service on March 9th at 12 noon to hear how more guns equal less crime. For more information and to RSVP, please go to facebook.com/Crime Chronicle.
You're listening to Crime Chronicle Live with your host, Val Emmons.
We are back with Dr. John Lott and his new book at probably anywhere.
I bought my copy at Barnes & Noble.
Barnes & Nobles. Dr. Lott, I want to ask you now, I have a few choice names I'd like to call Piers Morgan, but I won't. But we saw the video where he is claiming that you're just lying, outright lying. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, Piers Morgan is kind of a weird guy on some of this stuff, but it's just, I mean, my own belief is that it's a lot more productive to actually have a conversation. I don't know if you watched the whole 17 minutes that was on this last week. What?
It's all him.
Yeah, well, it starts off balanced. It starts off reasonably, but within about 2.5 minutes, it starts to degenerate. And I think basically he was losing at that point. And so at that point, he just decided to go and filibuster and try to talk over me a lot. I was able to talk a little bit at the end, too, and I guess I was able to make a few responses in the middle. But, you know, here's the deal. He's has a hard time kind of understanding the differences between levels and changes. And often what people do is they'll say, look, Britain has a low murder rate and they have low gun ownership. And so therefore the low gun ownership relative to the United States must be causing the low murder rate. The problem with it, and what I've tried to explain to him many times, is that Britain had even lower murder rate relative to the United States before they had gun control. even before they had the handgun ban that they had. And this is what you see around the world. Whenever you've seen handgun bans or banning all guns, murder rates go up. I can't find a place where you've banned guns and seen murder rates go down. And look, there are lots of reasons why a country like Britain maybe has a lower murder rate, has more violent crime, but a lower murder rate than the United States does. But in other countries too. But whether you're talking about Japan or Germany or other countries that they want to go and point to, the same point is true for them also. And there are very few academics who go and look at purely cross-sectional data, purely looking at data across places at one point in time because of that. It's kind of like saying, look, the murder rate in Chicago is really high, and it has very strict gun control laws, therefore the strict gun control laws cause a higher murder rate. It may be true, but looking at it purely cross-sectionally doesn't show anything, because they've always had a high murder rate. What you need to show, and in fact is true, is that their murder rate went up after they had the gun control laws. They had a high murder rate to begin with, but it went up. It got even worse once they had the gun ban, for example, that they had in '82. And the same thing is true with Washington, D.C. And those are the types of things that I personally find a lot more convincing than the type of looking at purely cross-sectionally. I'll give you another example. You look in the United States, this is one thing I guess I did briefly make clear to him, and that is 78% of the counties in the United States have 0 murders in any given year. 3% of the counties account for over 70% of the murders. Now, which counties do you think have the high gun ownership rates? It's the 78% that have no murders. That's where the gun ownership rate is particularly high in the United States. The ones with the 3% that have all the murders, that they have low gun ownership rates. Now, I'm not going to go and argue that just that cross-sectional comparison proves anything for the reasons I've said before. The 78%, they tend to be relatively more rural counties, more suburban counties. The other ones are more urban. Of course, you expect to have higher murder rates in more urban places than in rural or suburban areas. But even so, I would argue that the murder rates in those 3% tend to go up after they've had the gun control laws that they've had. That's the thing that you have to go and point to. But I think it's a myth to go and talk about the murder rate in the United States, that those 3% of the counties account for about 23% of the population and over 70% of the murders. So they're still well overrepresented in terms of murders in the United States. And, but I just think I've tried to make those points to him multiple times I've been on the show, and he usually just responds by saying, well, how many murders are there in the UK? And so it's like he either is really dense, or he just doesn't want to understand the point, or he does and he just doesn't want to let on that he understands.
Right.
But at least this last time, I got him to concede, or at least implicitly concede, that in fact after the ban, the murder rate's still higher now in the UK than it was before the ban. Now, it soared for 7 years, and now it's come back down, but it's still above what it was. The reason why it's come back down is in 2001 to 2003, you had an 18% increase in the number of police in the UK. People were tired of the huge increases in violent crimes and murders that they were having, and so that's the reason why I think those things leveled off or fell after that point. Was if you have an 18% increase in police, I presume you're going to have something to show for it. I think that does matter. My research does show that police are the single most important factor for reducing crime. But and I have a graph of this in At the Brink. I'm sure Dan's seen it. The change, but in murder rates over time in the UK. But anyway, so I don't know. Maybe somebody else, you guys can help me judge. I keep on trying to decide whether I should go on the show or not. But the main reason why I go on the show is I know his audience is kind of rabidly anti-gun.
Right.
And I figure
rabidly. I like. Yes,
this
they are.
This may be the only time they get to hear some of the points. And so I figure it's not a pleasant experience. It's not like I believe his audience is going to go out and run out and buy at the brink. You know,
But they might look you up.
They might look me up, and they might realize that some of the claims that they thought were true weren't right.
Right.
But that's the reason for doing it, is to help educate them. You know, there's no pleasure that I get from having him yell at me for 17 minutes or something. But so anyway, you know. But
well, we're going to have to wrap it up. I'm so sorry, but I want to thank you for being on the show with us, and we are definitely going to enjoy your speech and presentation. Oh, well, wait. We just got a question real quick for you, Dr. Lott, though. Hang on just a second, okay?
Hey, good afternoon. How are you today?
How are you?
Fantastic. I really enjoy listening to Dr. Lott.
Well, he's still on the line with us.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Dr. Lott, I will see you next week when Crime Chronicle brings you in. I just got off Amazon and ordered both your books. I did not know there was an update to More Guns, Less Crime. My question for you before the show ends is, how do you deal with individuals, for instance, my pastor or my homeowners association or my employer, other than handing them your book and say, read this for yourself and get facts? How do you get down and personal with these people and let them know that their employment, their place of worship, their neighborhood would be better if you would allow certain individuals, including myself, people like me, that go through the training and the background check and that are proficient, they're law-abiding citizens that want to carry a concealed firearm, not only to protect themselves, but maybe even those that don't want us carrying firearms. I'm going to hang up and listen to your response, and I'll see you next.
Sure. No, I appreciate the question.
Dr. Lott, before you answer the question, we are running up on a hard break.
Yeah, no, I see the time.
So if you can answer the question, we've got about a minute and a half.
I suppose the simplest way just to ask him a question, that is, let's say, God forbid, you were being threatened or stalked by a criminal, or your family was. Would you feel safer putting a sign in front of your home that said this home is a gun-free zone? I don't know anybody, even a gun control proponent, that would put up a sign like that in front of their own home.
No.
And the question is why? I mean, that's pretty clear. You're not going to dissuade the criminal from attacking. He's a magnet. He's going to figure if it's safe from attack them. And if we won't put up a sign like that, if your business, the employer won't put up a sign like that in front of his own home, why would he put up a sign like that in front of his business place or someplace else?
Well, Dr. Lott, we really appreciate that. I'm going to give out the number to call and RSVP, and also the email address. If y'all want to hear more from Dr. Lott and get a chance to meet him and you need to buy a copy of his book, he'll have some there, and he can sign them for you. If you will email publicprograms@clintonschool.uasys.edu, or you can call 501-683-5239 to RSVP. It's a free event, and we would love to have all of you come so you can come hear Dr. Lott speak some more about this. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes, Dr. Lott, thank you so much, and we are excited to see you next week.
Well, I'll look forward to meeting you guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Well, that's all the time we have today for the Crime Chronicle Live. Tune in next week, and have a great weekend. Be safe.